look at this spreadsheet, right? We've got product names being entered and we've got a drop down list to pick from. But look, right, this drop down list, if I change this product category here, we've got a completely different drop down list. And not only that, every row is different. And not only that, these two are the same product category, but they've got a different list on each, just because we've got a different region as well. Every single line has got a completely different list to pick from, a seamless user experience. You never know what's gone into this. And you may be thinking, well, I know how to do dependent drop downs. And of course, you'd be right. But 99% of the time, what you'll find you know, as with me, is that I knew how to do dependent drop downs and cascading drop downs when I just wanted one set of outputs. I didn't necessarily need completely different criteria on every single line, because there's a lot of information out there about how to do dependent drop downs, but typically it involves big separate calculations on the second or subsequent drop down, and you just don't have the luxury of that when you've got to do something different on every single line. So there's no VBA, no code in this. You can grab this spreadsheet right now, click the link in the description, completely free, no details needed, and work along, and I'll show you exactly how you can use that template and create this thing completely from scratch for yourself. One little caveat is that you're going to need to be using Excel 365 or Excel 2021 onwards to make use of the formulas for this technique. So if that's you, excellent, download, get on with it, we'll crack on. Just want to demonstrate before I show you this one other feature, because you might have thought, well, let's say I pick that copier there for this region, but then I change this to, like, say, envelopes. There you go. I was about to say, well, you don't want a copier to be part of an envelope category, and it's not, it's flagging it up. So it's also going to flag up where you have errors, and now the drop down list has changed to represent the envelopes available in that region. So you've got a bit of semi-intelligence and a bit of error checking built into this too, and of course I'm going to show you how you do that as well. The big reveal. Okay, let's unhide some of these hidden rows and columns here. So let's unhide these rows first, and you can see we've got a couple of extra columns. We've got a product check, and that's what bringing that conditional format into play, and we've got something I'm calling a spill list. And if I unhide this row, you'll see the spilled list that is created. So when I click on here, you can see it's these three columns, and it's basically going to give you those three entries. And if I change this to something like that, you can see I get a huge array of additional entries, and of course a much longer list as a result. So the key to this is, how did I do that? And I'm going to start with a completely new spreadsheet. So we'll start from scratch and create all of this right now. Right, so I've started a blank spreadsheet. All I've done is taken the headers from the input sheet of the other one. So the key thing is that I've got this orders table here. And in this orders table is basically a list of a few thousand, so roughly 4,000 orders with various sort of customers, regions, product categories, etc. And our input is essentially, we're adding on to this, right? And so what I need to do is get my lists from this orders data. I don't want sort of additional kind of lookup tables and things like that, extra data pulled in. I'm just going to get it straight from this. And that way it's going to be live, because as new orders go on the lists are going to update, and the drop downs are going to sort of represent kind of what we can currently achieve. So straight away I'm going to turn this into an Excel table, and If you want to know why I'm doing that, I could talk for 20 minutes about why you should do this, but Control T, make sure the headers box is ticked, hit enter, get some crazy looking table design, but you can go over here and change it to something that looks a bit reasonable. And there we go, we've got a table of orders. Now I'm just going to change its name as well. I'm going to start it with TB. Again, if you want to look at I think it's like 12 great reasons to use Excel tables, something like that. It's probably a link in the description or maybe on screen. Go and have a look, because honestly it's going to save you so much time. You'll see some of the reasons why in this video, but after that, go and have a look at it. So I'm going to call this TB orders, just so that when I refer to it in formulas, it's got a sensible name and makes it easier. So this is my orders name. So I want to get, first off on my input sheet, customer name. That could be anything, couldn't it? So let's go for region. I want a list of regions. So how do I get a list of regions? Well, I could copy and paste this and then remove duplicates, but actually I don't need to do any of that. Come over here, put in region, and this is the first of the functions I'm going to be using. Unique. It's a new dynamic array. You can put in a list of items and it'll give you only the unique items back. So what am I going to put in there? I'm just going to put the entire region column. And as long as I'm hovering over the title of the table, I click on the arrow, you get the whole thing highlighted, you get the whole thing typed in nice and simply, hit enter, there we go, there's my list of regions, no problem. Well, there's one minor problem, isn't there? It's in some kind of crazy order. You know, if I'm going to use this for a drop-down list and somebody's looking for Atlantic, they wouldn't expect it to be like the third item after kind of like Western, etc. So we want to sort it. No problem. Embed it inside the sort function. Now if I hit end on that and close the brackets, there we go, a sorted list of regions. That was pretty simple. Right, what about product categories, which is the next one? So product categories, dead simple. What I'm going to do is copy this formula to here. And this is another great thing about tables. F2 to go in there. See it says region. Delete the R. Start with a P. You get a list of everything with P. Product category is what we want. Hit tab. Hit enter. We now have a sorted list of product categories. Great stuff. Right, let's make the drop down list for these first, because these are not dependent. These are the base drop downs. So on here, my regions then. So Control F1 to bring up this toolbar, the ribbon. We're going to put some data validation in. Now, what I'm actually going to do is put it on a single cell for the moment, and then I'll show you a shortcut. So what we want is a list. And where's the source of our list? Well, it's that region list. And you might think, oh, well, you do this, but you don't need to, because you can click on the very first cell and then put this hash sign, which means pick up the spilled array from that cell, and it'll pick up the entire spilled formula. And the beauty of that is that if, probably unlikely, but if any new regions, or on the next one product categories come in, they will automatically go on that order list, they will automatically spill further down on that region list, and they'll automatically be picked up by this data validation list. So the whole thing will work completely automatically if new regions or new product categories are created. Hit OK on there, and then you'll see we have our region, right? So for the next, for product category, I'm going to highlight the whole column and hit data validation, and I'm going to apply this same list, which is this one. Remember, we can now just put the hash sign on the end. Again, fully dynamic, I'll update with new product categories. hit OK, and now we've got it on every single row of our spreadsheet. And the only silly thing is, of course, we've also got it on the header. So if we just do that same thing for the region, and it says, do you want to extend it? So I'm just going to say yes and hit OK. Now I can then just highlight the top 3 rows, hit data validation. I can hit OK on that, and I can just clear everything. So clear all, and so now we have the region and the product category on every single row of our spreadsheet other than above the title. So it's kind of ideal. Now you may have a point at the moment. You might say, well, why don't we just do exactly the same on product name, and then like we can, you know, it's fine, anyone can pick any product name, it doesn't matter. Well, this is the list of product names, right? Hundreds of them. You don't want people scrolling down through that list. So that is why we are doing this in the first place. Now I'm going to keep this simple and then build up. And the first thing I want to do is make this list of products for just the product category. So on here, let's just pick bookcases, right? So we want a list here of products that are bookcases. So how are we going to do that? Well, if we look at our order table, if we were to filter this list, so Alt and the down arrow, and then I'm going to put E for just going in there, bookcases, and hit enter, you can see we have various products, right? So really, we want to return like this kind of list, yeah? And we can do that with a function. So we can use the filter function to effectively achieve exactly that. So if we do equals filter, and it's saying what do we want as an array. So if we go to the orders table, the array is essentially our output. So we want a list of product names. And then it's asking, I hit the comma, what do we want to include? Now this is basically our criteria. So we want to say that the product category is equal to whatever we have in this cell here. So the cell to the left, the product category cell. Now I'm just going to fix the column on that by hitting F4, and I'm also going to remove the sheet name because it's kind of pointless, right? And then we have this optional argument at the end which says what are we going to do if it's empty, right? Well, I think let's give it a blank if it's empty. So just put double quotes in there and close it. So it's not going to give you an error or anything like that. Just give you nothing. Right, goodness me, there we go, right? Big, huge list of items spilled down. Right, that's step 1. Now, one of the problems we have in this is it's not unique, is it? I mean, look, you've got loads of repeating items and it's not sorted in order either. So we can use the same formulas we used before to correct for that. So we can embed all of this in a unique formula. So let's do this first. Hitting tab there, hitting end to go to the end. So there's our unique list, right? Then we can go back in and Control Home to go to the beginning and embed it in a sort function. Control N to the end. There we go. So now we have an alphabetically ordered sorted list of bookcases. And if we change bookcases to something else, this list is going to change and it might get longer or very long in the case of pen and art supplies. Rubber bands, that's fairly long. So yeah, we're kind of getting there, aren't we? It's pretty good, right? So we're looking pretty good so far. We've got a dependent drop down based on one category. What if we want it based on other categories as well? So we want to add on the region. Okay, so let's put Northwest region, and we want this now to filter down so it's just Northwest. The great thing about this filter function is we can just multiply up other criteria inside this include statement, or part of the formula, and it will basically give us that exact result. It will give us like an and criteria. It'll say this and this if we multiply them, and we just have to put it in brackets to make sure. So we put that inside brackets, and what I'm going to do is we'll do this, right, so we can see this formula working a bit better, and that. And if I multiply that criteria there, and instead of products I put regions, so I just hit the, and instead of E4 I put D4. When we do multiply, it gives us all the trues times either another set of trues or falses, and true times false, it treats them as ones and zeros. So 1 times 0, or anything times 0 is 0, right? So if we multiply them both together, only when they're both equal to 1 are we going to get the result. So I'm going to hit enter on that formula, and you can straight away see it has filtered it down. And again, if we start changing the region now, you can see that this list is changing. So we're nearly there, aren't we? Very nearly there. We have a sorted, unique, filtered list of everything that we want. And I'm just going to remove the kind of segregation on that formula so you can see it properly. Wouldn't it be great if you could think, well, there's our formula, right? Let's have all of that, right? Control A, Control C. Let's put it in our data validation, custom maybe, which allows us to put in a formula. Paste in that formula, hit OK, and there's a problem with this formula. And very unhelpfully suggest maybe I missed an equal sign or something. Well, I know I didn't, right? There's no problem with that formula, but except for one thing, and that is data validation at time of going to press does not accept array formulas. And I really hope that Excel, you know, in future version sort of allows for this, because it's going to make things a lot simpler. But for now, it's not going to like it, so we're going to need a bit of a workaround. So we'll cancel out of that. We can't quite make our list yet. So let's just move our list over here then, and just do the same as we did before. We'll just link it to our list, right? So data validation, list, there's our source. Let's you know, put the hash sign afterwards and hit hold on, we don't want it always to be on row 4. Okay, there we go, we've got our list. Brilliant. Right, okay, right, let's do a different one then. By the way, this is not it. Let's go northwest, bookcases. Yeah, we want that list again there, so hit enter, we get our list, but the first one has gone to a spill error. So now when we click on that, we just get the spill error, yeah? So if I drag that formula down, I just get tons of errors. So that's not the way to go. So let's remove that. Back to our spilled list. So there's one more function we can do, which is going to give us, keep all of that on one row, and that is transpose. So if we transpose that and ask for an array, well, that whole thing is an array, so we can just go straight to the end and hit enter. We've basically spilt that across the right hand side of the spreadsheet. Caution, caution, you cannot put anything, this has to be the final column, because you can't have anything else to the right if you don't know how long that spilled list is going to be, yeah? So just bear that in mind. Now, this is picking up that list, and it doesn't matter if I can put the entire column now on data validation. I'm going to link it to the source that's in I1, whatever that happens to be, and hit enter. It says it evaluates an error, it doesn't matter. We can now copy that formula down. Let's just copy it down to there for the moment. And now, obviously there's nothing in there, but as I put in new entries, so let's do west for chairs, we now you saw that automatically populated. We now have our new list, and essentially that's how it works, right? And obviously we just put in our order values and customer names as normal. So, you know, that's the crux of it, right? Pretty good, yeah? But we've got a slight issue, yeah? Because what if I want to change this row and I say, oh, I don't want rubber bands, I got office machines, right? Well, it's not flagged up any kind of error, the fact that Stockwell pushpins is not on the list anymore. And what we need to do is basically go in and now correct that to pick up an office machine like this. So we need to know whether we need some kind of error checking, yeah? Which is what I had on the original. So on the original here, you know, as I changed that, this came up as an error, changed that, but if I, you know, any time I change a category, or maybe even change, like sometimes there might be a region, for example, that causes an error, it's coming up in red. So, and there's this product check column that's working that out, and then some conditional formatting just highlighting it. So let's go back and work that out and get that up and running too. Essentially what we need to do is check whether that product is in this list, and we want to get that all into the one cell and then check it. So the function for that is going to be text join, and it says delimiter. What's the delimiter? Well, it's the gap in between each item. I'm just going to put a space, pretty easiest. Ignoring empty, why not? Doesn't hurt, doesn't really matter. And then what text do we want? Well, we're just going to highlight that, hit the hash key, we get the entire spilled array. And so that basically now is going to be a formula that is all of the text in our spilled list. What are we going to do with that? We're going to look for the product name in it. How are we going to do that? Well, we'll use the find command. And it says find the text. Well, that's the product name. I'll just fix the column F on that. Where are we going to look for it? Within that text. Start number's optional. Default to 1, that'll be fine. Right, hit enter. Alright, we're getting, so I double click on that. So we're getting a number, yeah? And what you'll notice is if I change this, we get an error. So we get a number or an error, yeah? Now it's a bit messy that we're getting all of this, yeah? So what I'd like to do is just one addition to just basically say that if the product name is blank, so let's do is blank, product name, fix F, then give me nothing, otherwise give me that, control end, sorry, F2 and then end, and hit enter on that. Right, let's just whack that down. So now we're only getting numbers where we've got products basically, because we need a region as well. There, right. So we're getting an error, and obviously if we change it back to that, we're not getting an error. Anytime we do anything like this, we'll get it. How are we going to use that? Conditional formatting. So we're going to put it on the entire column, so that way it's going to work wherever we are. And we want a new rule based on a formula. What's our formula? Well, we want to know if whatever's in column H is an error. So we'll do is error, and what we need to do is the active cell is F1, and you can see that because it's white, but also because we highlighted the whole column, it will be the white cell, it will be the top cell. So we need our formula to look at the top cell and not fix that reference, so that whenever it goes down, so when it's an F2 it'll look at H2, you know, etc, etc. We can fix column H. I mean, it's unnecessary, but it's just good practice to get in the habit of putting dollar signs into your formulas in the right place. So we're just saying if H1 is an error, so that formula will either come out with true or false. And of course, if it's true, it's going to apply a format. So in other words, if it's an error, apply this format. What format? Well, let's pick a red background as I did before with white text. So high contrast, very clear there's some kind of problem, and hit OK. And then I'm going to hit OK, and straight away you can see that one has come up with an error. And when I correct it, no error. So, you know, that's pretty much it, right? So it's just a bit of tidying up and things. I mean, originally what I did, I don't know if you remember, but I hid these two columns. But in addition to that, I also highlighted everything from there to the end of the spreadsheet. And I made the text white. And the reason I did that is so that you can't see these spilled lists, so we can't see them unless there's only one item in it. And if I hide those two columns now, Control 0, then it's not entirely obvious what's going on, and we're not revealing our kind of methods here. So, you know, as we do this, we're just getting nice clean stuff, and as we, you know, create errors, everything's working. So essentially that's a few kind of final touches. So that is it for this technique. Make sure you download this template, because then if you didn't quite follow along, or you're struggling or whatever, you've got that template there, and you can just work along. And if you're interested in other sort of Excel templates, there's a link in the description. You get free access to my entire downloads library, so you can like scroll through and have a look and see what else you might want in the way of templates. So make sure you go and check that out. Hope all this stuff is useful. Hope to see you soon. I'm John. You've been watching Up for Excel.